Hello and welcome to another video on Jurassic World the game. This video will be part 1 in a series on ferocity. I'll be covering my opinion on how ferocity is calculated, an example of how ferocity changes the level of a creature increases, and how my lineup has changed over time to give myself the best chance at completing daily events. Let's dive in. Right, so ferocity. This is going to be a interesting video. I'm going to be using this particular section of my lineup to discuss. So the VIPs in between here, the Pterodactylus, the Tanagolegorus, the Prestasuchus, the Edomorphodon, and the Apatosaurus. And I'm going to be doing some calculations based off of those, and then we'll do a bunch of charts and other stuff as well. So the first chart or first calculation I'm going to show is essentially how do we calculate ferocity. So it's a made-up thing. It's a way that Ludia ranks creatures. So the Pterodactylus has got more ferocity than the Tanagolegorus and the Prestasuchus, the Edomorphodon, the Apatosaurus, but not as much as the Monostegotops, which is why it is higher on the ferocity ranking if we are ranking them from highest to lowest, which is what this ranking is doing. So we don't know what the ferocity number is. There's nothing you can look at. There's anything that says this is the ferocity number. We only know that by ranking how they rank out in this list here. But so we do know that the way that Ludia is calculating it is the Pterodactylus is higher than the Tanagolegorus, and the Tanagolegorus is higher than the Prestasuchus. So the first calculation I'm going to show is the Tanagolegorus versus the Prestasuchus. So if we're looking at this, we're seeing that there's 506 health and 1272 attack on the Tanagolegorus. The Prestasuchus is 3591 health and 1870 attack. And all we know is that the Tanagolegorus has got a higher ferocity than the Prestasuchus. We know it's larger. We don't know by how much or what the scale is, but we know it's larger. So if we look at this and we basically solve for y, we get that ultimately y needs to be less than the 3.2023411137 number that we got. So we know that in this scenario, the multiplier, and I'm assuming that there is no multiplier on the health. So the 5506 times x, we're going to assume that x is 1, and that's the factor that gets applied to health, and that there's only really a factor that gets applied to the attack. So ultimately, we are looking at a 3.2023 in this scenario. In the next scenario, we are going to look at the Prestasuchus versus the Edomorphodon. Again, we know that the Prestasuchus is larger than the Edomorphodon in ferocity because of how it gets ranked on this scale here. So with that one, we've got 3591x plus 1870y, where y is the factor we're trying to figure out. And we know that that's greater than the 4788x plus the 1496y on the Edomorphodon. And again, if we solve for y, assuming that x is 1, we get that y needs to be greater than the 3.2000534759. And so if we look at those and we kind of apply those just to these creatures, and we do the 3.20053, the lower number, we know that y, the factor that we're trying to figure out, has to be greater than that number. But if we use that number, we see that a few of them end up being identical ferocities. So the Apatosaurus, the Edomorphodon, and the Prestasuchus all end up being 9,576 ferocity. And again, we don't know what that number is, but this is what the math is telling us. Conversely, if we use the 3.2023 number and we look at what these creatures end up with the ferocity, we see that the Tanagalagris and the Precisuchus end up with the exact same ferocity, which is essentially what should happen, because when we did the formula, we just know that it needs to be less than. We don't know how much less than, but we know that it needs to be between the 3.2023 number and the 3.20053 number. We know it needs to be somewhere in there. And I did a bunch of calculations, and basically where I ended up is 3.2019230077 is the most correct number. And I say the most correct number because even that number ends up being false in some situations. For instance, if we look at, if we go deep into the list here, where was that at? Where's my level 20? If we go in here, so if we look at the Alumbia and do I have one? This is an older calculation. I don't have one. I believe it was a no, okay, it was the concavenator. So if we look at these two here, the Alumbia and the concavenator, and we do the calculations between these two, and we use the factor, they get inversed. The Alumbia ends up with a stronger ferocity ranking than the concavenator, but it's only in these, like, there's only a couple situations where that 3.219 la-da-da number doesn't work. It works for the majority, and we're gonna stick with that. And again, because this is like, they don't line up, out at the second or third decimal point, or they don't line up in the very first line. So for instance, for these guys, use the 3.219 number, you end up with a ferocity of 4,443.2, and the concavenator ends up with a 4,442.1. So we're off by, like, the percentage that we're off is so small, it's insignificant in the grand scheme of things. It's not technically correct, but it's close enough to do calculations and math off of. And really, even if we simplify it even further down to 3.202 or 3.201, like any number that's in between those two that we had before is probably going to be close enough. And even 3.2 is pretty close. You end up with some stuff that gets a little screwy, but again, it gets a little screwy really only in the VIPs, because for whatever reason, Ludia set up the VIPs to be almost identical at the same levels from a ferocity ranking. So the concavenator at rank 20, the Alumbia at rank 20, the Pterodocido at rank 20, the Metrophoso at rank 20 end up all being like within 1 or 2 points of ferocity, effectively making them all the same. And it's really in those creatures that you get kind of these oddball scenarios where all of a sudden one has jumped out in front of the other, where when you look at this ranking here, they all are associated with the concavenator being higher than the Alumbia. So for whatever reason, it is what it is. But so the reason why this is important, why ferocity is important, why is ferocity important? So there's a few different types of battles. So when you're doing kind of the daily events, right? So we've got this event here. This event and many other events are going to key off of your top 3 creatures in that category that you're fighting, to judge how difficult of a match you're going to get. So for me, if you're looking at my top, I think I did 25. Let me see. Let me get the chart up here, and I'll flash it up here on the screen. My top 25. Where is that at? Quarters. Here we go. Okay. So my top 31. No, top 33. I went all the way down to 33 because I wanted to pick up this Indoraptor right here. It's level 1 Indoraptor, and let me get just Jurassics. So my top 33 Jurassics go to the Coolosaurus. As I feed this Indoraptor, he is going to jump up this scale, and I've pre-calculated out what the ferocity is of the Indoraptor. And what's funny is at level 2, it's going to be the exact same as the Brestasuchus because it's 3591 1870. So let's go feed the Indoraptor, and we'll see him jump up to, or he should jump up to that level, right? So 3591 1870, and go back to that screen. We switch this to just Jurassics. Come down to where he's at, and he should be right in the middle of our VIPs now that are rank 40. Where'd he go? Okay, so boom. So he's right next to it, and he's got the same health, same attack, right? So that's pretty much where he should be. This is where he should be. At level 3, he's going to have 3,780 health and 1,969 attack, giving him a ferocity of 10,084. That 10,084 should put him right between our Pterodactylus and our Monostegatops. Let's go feed him and see if that's where he ends up going to. So let's feed him one more time. Let's go back to that screen. Just Jurassics. So level 40. Yep, so there he is. So he's right between the Pterodactylus and the Monostegatops. At level 4, he should have 3,969 health, 2,067 attack, giving him a ferocity of 10,587. 10,587 should put him right between our level 20 Metrophodon and our Eudon. So let's go feed him and test that out. Okay, Jurassics. Alright, so Eudon, here he is, and there's our Indoraptor, right where he should be. So each time we feed him, we can predict where he's going to end up in our ferocity rankings. So the next level up, at level 5, he's going to have a ferocity of 11,093. 11,093 is going to put him just ahead of our Eudon, so he's only going to go up 1. So it's going to go between the Eudon and the Pachygallosaurus. So let's feed him. Go back, and we shouldn't have to worry about doing just Jurassics now because we don't have any Cenozoics that are up this high. And there you go. So now he's between the Eudon and the Pachygallosaurus. At level 6, he's going to go up to, level 6, he's going to go up to 11,596 ferocity, which is going to be just past our Pachygallosaurus. Pachygallosaurus is 11,518, so he should just jump up 1 spot right in front of our Pachy. So let's go test that. And there he is. So right in front of our Pachy. So on my team here, this is where I start to have, I don't know, call it a gap, if you will, but from my Pachygallosaurus to my Gorgosuchus, it is, it's only 300 ferocity difference between the two, but from my Gorgosuchus to my Segnosuchus, it's 1500-ish ferocity. So when we feed our Indoraptor this next time and go from level 6 to level 7, it's going to go up to 1,200 and our 12,102 ferocity, which will be just ahead of our Gorgosuchus. But then we'll have to feed him a couple times to get him in front of the Segnosuchus. So let's feed him one time. He should jump up right in front of our Gorgosuchus. Oh, so there he is. So now he's right in front of our Gorgosuchus. And at level 7, again, 12,102 ferocity. The Segnosuchus has got 13,479. So we're going to have to go... so at level 8, he's still going to be where he's at. It won't be till level 9 that he... And actually, even at level 9, he's still going to be just below the Segnosuchus. So let's go and feed him once. And we'll see that he hasn't moved. So he should still be right behind our Segnosuchus, but he is. We'll go feed him again. Feed him at level 9. And he should be still behind our Segnosuchus, which he is. At level 10, obviously he's going to jump up to here with his friends, his other level 10s that I have, and he's going to pass all 3 of these because I've set my Segnosuchuses and my Metrophodons to be either right at the same ferocity or very as close as I can without going over. I went over with 2 of my Segnosuchuses when I was feeding them, just getting a little antsy, if you will, but they are just barely over. And so I'm going to feed the Indoraptor one more time, and obviously he's going to jump up past those and join the rest of his pals in my lineup and be up here with the rest of the Indoraptors. So why is this important? It's important because if you do not calculate your ferocity, you might see my top 3 here, my level 20 Indoraptor, my Segnosuchus at level 29, and think, well, this just rank 1, 2, and 3. So there's just only one difference between the Indoraptor at level 20 and the Segnosuchus at level 29. What you don't see is the gap of how far that Indoraptor is out in front of the Segnosuchus at level 29. And it's substantial. And so I'm going to show you a graphic right now, which is my entire top team from 1 to 33. And it's got the Indoraptor at level 1 on it because it's the graphic that I'd already created. But it shows you how much that Indoraptor at level 20 is ahead of the rest of my team. And I've also got it keyed by color. So obviously red is carnivore, green is herbivore, yellow is pterosaur, and blue is amphibian. And you can see just how heavy my team is in carnivores at the top, and that's because of the Indoraptors. I've got some supporting characters from the Metrophodons and the Segnosuchuses when it comes to pterosaurs and herbivores. But as far as amphibians are concerned, I do not have really. I got 3 amphibians in my top 30, top 33, 3 amphibians. And it's just because there isn't really, I don't know if there's no good amphibians. The Gorgosuchus is great. It just has such a terrible cooldown. And because cooldown is based on health. And so anything with high health, like this Pachygallosaurus that I use, has got a longer cooldown than my Indoraptors because they've got less health. And so while the Gorgosuchus is great, I have found that level 20 Gorgosuchuses, which I've got 4 of, are enough at my current level of my team and the matchups that I get to take on the hits that I need to from a carnivore in order to put myself in a position to use an Indoraptor. And really what the game needs, in my opinion, is a super hybrid pterosaur that can combat the amphibians that you get matched up against with the Indoraptor. While the Metrophodon is great, it's a glass cannon. So there needs to be a super hybrid that has a better balance of health and attack. Because you just get a Cygnasuchus in, and even without class advantage, it can almost one hit the Metrophodon. And so you need to have a pterosaur that's got some health. In fact, I use the Amorphodon quite a bit because it's got more health, and so it can withstand an attack from. It can take one attack and not die. So it's a gap. It's a gap in the game. And if you look at the entire top 25 creatures you can have, and this list is not updated because I have not added the Spinotosuchus or the Indominus Rex Gen 2, which would just add more carnivores to the top of this list. You'll see that in the top 25 creatures you can have, and this is based off of like total level cap, so a level 40, a level 30, a level 20 of the various creatures that exist on the Jurassic scale. Your top 4 are carnivores, with your Indoraptor well out ahead of everything else. Then you got your Pachygallosaurus level 40, your Eudon at level 40, and then you have Indoraptor at level 30 ahead of everything else. So level 30 and level 40 Indoraptor are in the top 4. And then you've got Metrophodon at level 40, and then Cerazenosaurus at level 40, and then you get to the first herbivore, which is Cygnasuchus at level 40. Then you go carnivore again, and Indoraptor level 20. Again, Indoraptor level 20, higher than Pachygallosaurus at level 30, higher than the Erlophosaurus at level 40, higher than the Gorgosuchus at level 40, which is when you get your first amphibian. And then you've got Eudon at level 30, Metrophodon level 30. Again, there's your second pterosaur, which is just another Metrophodon, just a lower level. And then Cerazenosaurus at level 30, Pridotrodon at level 40. So now we're getting into some of the just legendary hybrids instead of the tournament hybrids. And then you got Cygnasuchus at level 30, and then Indoraptor level 10, and then Indominus Rex level 40, Monostegatops level 40. So there's our second type of herbivore, and there's only 3 herbivores in the entire top 25. And you got Gorgosuchus at level 30. Again, same amphibian as mentioned earlier, just a different level. Pachygallosaurus level 20, and then Osteoposaurus level 40 joins the group, and then Eudon level 20, and then Metrophodon level 20. So out of the top 25, there's 3 pterosaurs, which are all the same pterosaurs, just different level of that pterosaur. Metrophodon level 40, level 30, level 20. And then we've got 3 herbivores, which 2 of them are the same. Cygnasuchus level 40, Cygnasuchus level 30, and then Monostegatops level 40. And then we've got 3 showings of amphibians: Gorgosuchus level 40, Gorgosuchus level 30, and then Osteoposaurus level 40. And the rest are carnivores, with 4 of them being Indoraptor level 10, 20, 30, and 40. And so the game... Okay, note to self. your video stops recording when your screen goes dark. All right, so I'm back now. So the Indoraptor, while level 20, looks like it's just one step higher than my Segnosuchus. Really, it's quite a bit higher. And that Indoraptor getting raised to level 20 was, I call it a rookie move on my part before I fully understood how all of this, and I got excited. I had an Indoraptor, I had 2 of them. There was some sort of boss that was up and running that was probably a herbivore boss, and I was like, I can do so much damage if I just level up my Indoraptor. Well, after I did that, my PvE became a nightmare for a while because I only had the one Indoraptor at level 20. I think I might have had one other Indoraptor at level 10, but I did not have Segnosuchus at level 28 or 29. I did not have Metrophodons at level 23. I had only a few of these creatures down here. I don't even have these 40 level VIPs. So there was a huge steep curve on my team. In fact, I think I have a graphic that I will show that was my original team. Yeah, I think it was probably worse than what this is, but I'll show it anyways. But this is what my team looked like a long time ago. So this graphic here shows how far ahead that level 20 Indoraptor is from the rest of my team. And when you're doing events where you might have 3 events with 3 battles, or this is back when the battles were only 3 battles, and you had multiple days to do some of the events. Now you've got multiple events in one day to do them, and some events are 4 battles, some events are 5 battles. It can just get real taxing on your team depending on how deep your bench is. So now my bench, if you were to look at my top creatures, again back to the, it's a very flat curve, if you will, just trying to eliminate the curve. In fact, my top 18, when you drop off the Indoraptor, are almost all the identical ferocity. And that's so that when the game gives you matches that are, 5% disadvantage to you or 7% disadvantage to you, you aren't using up just your best 3 creatures and then you're done, because you have to either pay for cooldowns or you just have to not do that event. And so if you can make your top 15 to 20 creatures all the same ferocity and have a mix to the best of your ability, the Indoraptors are great because they're so flexible. You can do they're great against pterosaurs, they're obviously great against herbivores, they're great against carnivores, they're just not great against amphibians. And so that's where the Metrophodons and Segnosuchus come in, because they have such high attack that they can do some damage on some amphibians, which is why I focused more on the Metrophodons and the Segnosuchuses than I have on the amphibians, because I don't need amphibians to take out carnivores, because my Indoraptors or my Metrophodons can take out carnivores. And the Gorgosuchus has such a terrible cooldown that they don't really help. So I just leave them at level 20 until I start leveling up my Indoraptors, which is what I've started to have to do, which is why I've got some level 11s in here. In fact, I've got another 2 level 10s in here cooking, because I need to make some space in my paddock, because I'm at 12. And as soon as I have enough super DNA, which I'm almost there for my next one, I'm gonna hatch that one out and I'll be at 12 again. So it's kind of this never-ending battle that eventually they're gonna all get to level 11 in here. It's gonna take some time, but it's gonna happen. But when that happens, I will have to either sell off an Indoraptor, which is something I could do, because you get a ton of DNA, right? So if I sell this guy, it's 40,000 DNA. but I don't really want to sell any of my Indoraptors because they're so good. But if it helps me keep the balance, that might be something I need to think about. Or, you know, selling off, you know, 80,000 DNA for a level 11. It's not something I want to do. In fact, I could sell this guy off for 80,000, which would bring down the ferocity of my top 3. But currently, I don't have a problem with finishing events with the lineup that I have. But if I have to sell off a creature in order to keep my game from becoming impossible, then that just might be something I have to do. That's just the reality of it. But that is ferocity. If you don't know what the ferocity is and you screw up your team, that's just the way it's going to be. And this is part 1 of ferocity. This is a very long part 1. But what I'm going to do is I will do another video later that will go over the ferocity for Cenozoics and aquatics, because they have their own unique information regarding the team. So their own special creatures, their own special things to think about, pitfalls to watch out for when it comes to how high one is versus another. So that'll be in a future video to come. If you made it this far, I appreciate you watching all the way to the end. Subscribing to my channel and clicking the notification bell will ensure that you'll be notified as I release videos on the channel. If you found this video helpful, let me know by hitting the like button. If there is something specific you would like a video on in the game, please leave a message in the comment section below on what you would like to see. Again, thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one.